Do you like my new microphone?
Oh, I was just about to get in there first. I was going to say, sing us a song, Steph.
I think maybe subconsciously that's why I chose this. Because when it arrived,
hmm
I was like, why did I order a stage microphone? I look like a stand-up comic or
You
like
do.
a singer. And then I was like, of course I did, because I just want to like I think that that's why it appeals to me. It's really, I want to sing, and I think I may use it unprofessionally.
I do feel like anybody who's listening to this as a podcast should just have a
Should take a
glimpse at
look.
the YouTube because it's really. I might try and get it on the thumbnail. You with your
Okay. I'll
microphone,
post.
send a picture or something.
Just
But yeah, we'll
well,
see how it goes at the end of these recordings. Steph may or may not be keeping it. Well, Happy New Year!
happy 2025.
Yeah.
Here we are again.
Again, when have you lived 2025 before?
Well, no, I just mean we've done like three New Year episodes.
Yeah, this must be four.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
because
has to be. Hmm.
this has got to be the fourth one.
Hmm.
No.
Yeah, because I think this year will be 4 years. I don't know how many years we've done words. I know we did it last year and the
hmm
year before.
The year before we did, yeah. So for those long-time listeners, maybe you do, maybe you don't remember our words from last year. Of course, we'll be reminding you and talking about how our words have worked out for us this year.
Yeah.
Steph went and got two words, didn't you, Steph, last year?
Yeah,
After much reluctance,
I
you got
think I always have two words, and this year I do as well. I cannot commit. But yes, last year was one term, 2 words.
yes, yes. Which was,
It was frivolous bullshit.
do you want to
If you
explain
want,
what that meant
I
to
mean,
anybody who maybe didn't hear last year's
I
episode?
don't, I don't remember how it came up. I don't know how I got to it in terms of the actual term, but my idea was more I just wanted to lighten up a little bit and focus. Not focus, focus is the opposite of that, but like I wanted to invite in more frivolity and
hmm
lightness and fun.
Yes.
We talked about it via red lipstick, which didn't pan out for me and was not the way that I experienced frivolous bullshit. But there's been a call in my life, I think, recently to be lighter.
Yes.
I understand the irony of saying that. I mean, psychologically and potentially just behaviorally, um, to laugh more.
Mhm. Yeah. And my word, which I had before we recorded last year, I'd already chosen my word. And today we've turned up to record and I haven't chosen my word. So
Oh, it's a
Steph has
surprise.
chosen her 2025 word. So it's going to be the opposite way round this year,
No, I did my
where
homework.
Steph's going to help me figure mine out. But my word for this year just gone, for 2024, was home. Because when we recorded it, I had come off the back of 6 months of nomading, feeling pretty lost about where I wanted to be in the world, in life. And for me, home was about a feeling that I was after. It was a feeling of home. It wasn't even necessarily a concrete, oh, I need to get myself a home. But go
But lo
figure,
and
look what
behold,
happened.
I think your subconscious knew.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Did I ever tell you about the time when it would have been 2018, New Year's Eve, 2018, 2019. So I think I've spoken before on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day, usually. I record a video to myself where I
Hmm.
reflect on the previous year and I just talk about things for the next year coming. And often when I watch the video back, I don't remember a thing about what I said. So it's really fun to hear
Yeah.
from me a year ago. And so in 2020, New Year's Day, I watched 2019's video. And in it, I said about how I wanted to do more writing. And that was the year I wrote my book. And don't get me wrong, Steph, I was never planning on writing my book that
Yeah.
year. I thought I need to do more writing before I could write a book, but that's clearly not my personality. So yeah, that was absolutely fascinating to me to watch that back. And I was like, oh, I was talking about writing. I didn't even remember that I'd mentioned writing and then ended
Mm.
up writing a book that year. This year, saying the word home, really didn't think that that would mean I would have bought somewhere by the end of the year.
Oh, really?
I thought maybe I might have figured out where I wanted to settle, or even figured out that I don't want to settle and where I want to move about.
Yeah. Well, be careful what you wish for then.
I know this is powerful stuff,
This
right?
is this is manifesting.
It absolutely is. But, maybe I should make the most of it here. Really, let's go bigger.
It'll thwart it altogether, the observer effect.
Yeah. So, how was frivolous bullshit for you this year? Do you feel like you were able to have experiences of that?
So, yes, but not in a significant way. And I'm perfectly okay with that because if you remember, I'm not really behind these words. I have always come to these recordings with resistance about the word. And I've had to apply some levity to it in order to do it because I think I have taken it, I sort of generally just take things very seriously. And I think last year was kind of like, all right, fine, I'll play along. But with the caveat that I don't like to feel pinned down by a word. And I know we've talked about it's not being pinned down. And I understand what an intention is and its purpose, but I still have this immediate reaction of feeling like I don't want to commit to this. Like I don't want to name this. But I also think that like this idea of frivolous bullshit is basically I've just named a value that I'd like to focus on. And I believe that it has grown a bit, but I have more of a long-term. I believe that will still continue to grow. I don't think that I need to limit it to a year. I think that it's going to grow in its own time. And I planted a seed maybe in 2024 that I'm going to be patient with. And I don't feel like
Mm.
I've failed by not being more frivolous. It's just like it will take its time, but it's still there, it feels like to me. It's not something, and in fact, my word this year that I have chosen, I was thinking about it and I was like, I think this word is almost like a building block to frivolous bullshit. Like it's part of the journey. So it's all still around.
Well, I think this is the important piece because I think, if I recall correctly, when we were talking about this last year, is that you didn't want it to be this goal, this
Yeah.
measurable thing where you then go at the end of the year, right, now I assess myself and
Yeah.
did I hit this target or did I not? And then when I was reframing it as an intention, that
Hmm.
was when you softened. So we can bring it back to an intention. Intention doesn't have to be right in 12 months. It's supposed to look like this.
Yeah. But I don't even think it meant it was like an intent. Like I didn't, it wasn't like throughout the year I thought about it like an intention. I just think about it like, because even intention intends. There's something about, I like a word to be that window open thing I talk about. I leave the window open to frivolous bullshit. It's a value I want to keep in front file of my brain and see what it does. That's
Mm.
it. And I feel like I have seen what it and it's working slowly. That's the way it
Yeah.
wants to work. I'm not in charge of that.
Yeah.
But it's there and I keep it conscious. I'm still
And
aligned with it.
could I try and guess your word and how would this work? But like, so I guess some words, but then also like doing yes or no questions to try and narrow it down so that I get there.
Yeah, I mean, there's a pretty wide range of words out there, but
I know,
you
but
can go
that's why I
ahead.
will ask questions as well. So I'll do
Okay.
some words and then ask questions. So the first word that's come to mind is lightness.
No.
No. Okay. Is it a synonym of lightness?
No. Path towards it.
Okay. Is it a verb?
Oh gosh. No. No.
Adjective?
No.
Oh, because it's two words. So is one of
No.
the word?
No. Well, I picked two words, but I actually am going to go with one.
Okay. Okay. Because you said it's kind of adjacent to frivolous bullshit.
No,
So is it
it's
to do
you
with
don't think
fun?
of it like that. It's
Okay. Is that
it's
gonna?
more about a way that you access frivolous bullshit.
Okay. Is it like carefree?
No.
Is it it's harder than I thought? Like, there should be questions. Does it begin with an A?
No. It's three letters.
Oh, fun. I said fun.
No.
Okay. Three letters. I should be able to get that. Okay.
Also,
Just
like think about my whole shtick, like my whole nervous system
well, regulation is
aura.
definitely reg. You just shortening
That would have been too
regulation to reg.
easy. Reg. No.
Okay. Me a
I'll tell you
second.
how it came about. I'll
Okay,
tell you
yeah.
how I landed on it. I was experiencing an uncomfortable emotion and working through it somatically.
All the words I'm thinking of are like four letters or more. Um,
And it starts with an N.
now,
Yes.
now. Nice.
No. I have this image, I may or may not have shared it here, of the fishing pole. Have we talked about it?
No, I don't think so.
So sometimes when I will talk to clients about anxiety, I have this image about how, like, you know how it's easier to watch it in someone else than it is to notice it in yourself. But like, if you see someone sort of projecting into the future and like what if this? What if this? What if this? What if this? And it's almost like I see it as like this cast, like the fishing rod, like you've just cast the net way out into the future. And I have this image of like helping somebody reel it back in until that fishing line comes all the way back to the place where we stand in the now. And what's here now? Like what's happening now? What's this, somatically, what is going on in the body now? Because what's happening now is fueling this rumination and fueling this like future projecting what ifness that we are never going to get around because that's an energy. It's not really about the problem in the future. So I was doing this more work on myself and I was like, oh, fishing rod, like this is a fishing rod moment. And I kind of reeled myself back in and I was like, it's now the power. It's the power of now.
Yeah, I know.
And
I'm kicking myself for not getting it sooner. Go on.
um, and I read The Power of Now in 1999 and found it utterly esoteric. I was like, I don't know what he's saying. I don't understand this book. I remember thinking, I feel like such a dummy that I don't understand. And now I understand that I didn't understand because I had no access to now. Like this concept to me was not there. And so now I'm like, I totally get it now. I understand what this means and why this is valuable. And it is really how I notice myself moving through emotions now and helping myself stay out of black and white thinking, like just a lot of the things that I value about recovery and my life. It's about being present and letting myself just stay there because it's really hard to stay there. And when it comes to like frivolous bullshit, in order to do that, I have to be more now. I have to be more present. And of course, if I was in more of a depression kind of place, it would be more past focused, where anxiety is future focused. But there's this thing about what's here now that feels like that is all I actually have to contend with. I mean, it's not. I don't think we could always live in the now, but it's been very relevant to my emotional processing and my mental health as far as staying with what I can control and staying away from what I can't.
So it feels like this is quite recent. This has already begun.
Yeah.
This now.
Yeah, I wasn't going to wait until January 1st.
Calendar doesn't get to dictate when this starts. It
Right.
starts now. That's the whole point. Do you think you'll revisit the book? Do you have any desire to?
Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I kind of want to dust it off, and I know that you like it. I know that it's a powerful one for you, but
Yeah. Oh, nice. In terms of my word, I guess the first thing that's kind of coming to my mind as I am thinking about this is I've had a few moments where having bought my place and having got a cat, where I feel really rooted down and I kind of don't like it.
Really?
Yeah, there's not relief in it.
Okay.
And there's a fear of like a sense of, oh, this is gonna sound a bit dramatic, the language, so excuse me. But like, oh, and now this is it. I'm just gonna rot away in this flat for the rest of my life.
Okay.
And so I think there's something for me that's really important around novelty because I think it's very easy and I can see how easy it is for the days to just start merging into one. They already have felt like that the last few months, that every day has felt very similar to the last.
In a way that did not exist in your previous flats?
Maybe it did, but like in the previous flats, I always knew change was coming because I always knew I wasn't going to be there forever. So yes,
Right.
there might have been times when that was happening. So that's happening, which is fine for a few months. But I'm looking at it and going, oh, what if the next 20 years just look like this every single day? Which isn't very now, I know, but that's
I know, I was thinking that. I was like, and I was also wondering, do you feel this way frequently or do you only feel it when you're fearing? Like, do you feel discontent in your life day to day in this? I don't mean discontent, but this feeling, or is it only when you think about it, which is projecting into your future?
Yeah, it's probably when I think about it because I'm still enjoying my work. I'm enjoying this flat. I guess as well, it always reminds me of, how during the pandemic, time just went really weird.
Yeah.
It was really strange. Like the days felt long, but the weeks felt short. And I remember talking with my brother about this once, and he said something which he spouted as a fact, and it makes sense to me. The idea that if you have a year where you don't do much. When I say you don't do much in terms of variation of what you do. that the time feels much shorter than
Hmm.
when you've done lots of different things. And it's made just sense to me in terms of how I experience
I feel
time.
opposite.
Really?
Yeah. Actually, I think it kind of depends on what perspective you're talking about. I think in retrospect, it might feel shorter, but in real time, I think it feels longer in monotony.
It does, but it's still that weird. It's like it does on one hand, and then on the other hand, it doesn't.
Oh,
The
okay.
sense of time passing, as opposed to just an in the moment experience. The sense of time passing to me seems to go much quicker when everything's very similar, when the days are similar, the routine's similar.
Feel like I can catch up with that. Like that, my brain can orient so I don't feel like I'm missing something, so I can actually enjoy the present.
Hmm.
That's so, I wonder if there's a psychology involved in this, different
Yeah.
ones to make it feel different for each person.
So now it's not quite so easy for me to just go away or do this or do that. Do you see what I mean? There's less I don't know, trips or events. So there was one point where it looked like I might not be able to go to Tenerife. So I'm supposed to be going away tomorrow for a week to Tenerife. And there was a point like last week where I thought I just for a reason I might not be able to go. And I had this real feeling of feeling sorry for myself about that, feeling like I really need this trip. And then an incredible sense of the guilt of privilege guilt, where I was like, well, Sarah, you've gone away a lot. You've done a lot of things. If there's one trip that you can't do, you'll be okay. It wasn't really harsh. So it wasn't like I was super beating myself up, but I was very aware of feeling that kind of guilt. And I've got a couple of friends who would love to go away more, and they're just for their circumstances, they don't get to go away very often at all. So there's something I think around a loss of freedom. It's just a felt sense of a loss of freedom that then feels like it's harder to do these things.
Hmm.
So I feel like I need something to counteract that. I feel like my word needs to counteract that experience.
Okay. Is there a happy medium here? Like if in freedom you craved home, and in home you crave freedom, for lack of a better word, is there a place that we can get to where there's a happy medium? Is there a balance? Does it exist? Do we
Probably my
always want what we don't have?
Well, it's not that because my craving for home was never a craving to buy somewhere. It was never a craving to have my own place. I've never craved that.
So do you feel like you found a sense of home, or have you just bought one?
I feel like I really like living here. I feel like this is homely and it feels comfortable. There is a bit of a sense of home, but it's not really the home feeling. It's nice. Like I don't feel like I'm not thinking, oh gosh, I really thought it was going to feel more like home and it doesn't. I don't feel like that at all. I'm pleasantly surprised at how homely it feels. But do you remember that time when I was leaving London and I was just before I went to New York and I'd been going through that really stressful time with the whole move and just all the emotions as well about becoming a nomad. And I talked about leaving London, going to my friend's house in Bournemouth and sitting on my yoga mat.
Hmm.
And it was the first time I sat on the yoga mat in like a
Yeah.
week or something because boxes have been everywhere. And I had this feeling of home.
Yes.
That feeling is, and the whole thing was, it was inside you all along. That feeling of home is something inside
Yeah,
me
yeah, yeah.
that buying a place doesn't give me that feeling.
Right.
It gives me a nice feeling of home, of having a home sort
Yeah.
of externally, but it's a different feeling inside.
Okay. I know that. To me, that's a state, right? Like
Yeah.
that's in polyvagal would be the ventral vagal state, which you can access anywhere. It's
Mhm.
just how often are we in that state? I guess a question would be, is novelty, travel, freedom, access, does that give you access to that state in a way that living in one single place doesn't? Is it really dependent on where we are? Is I guess the
No,
question.
no.
So are we imagining that like trips or that sense of freedom is going to bring it up? And does it? Like, is it imagined or is it real?
Well, the sense of freedom, I don't think is about trying to create the feeling of home. So it's not like, oh, I need to get away in order to get
Okay.
that feeling of home. It's not that. I think just like a real fear, like I said, of just every day becoming the same.
What are you feeling right now?
I'm more in my thoughts, but I just say what the thought is, and maybe that'll take to the feeling. Like the thought is like the fear of stagnation. Like I've peaked now.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that in like an achievement goal oriented
No, I
way, but
know.
it's just like, oh, you got here and now this is just
Yeah.
gonna ride your years out. like here, like nothing's going to change now. I
That's
think
your
there's something about
fishing
the
rods out
potential,
there.
yeah, the potential of excitement, you know. I remember when my friend my friend married her husband. She'd always wanted a rich city boy, and she ended up with like the opposite of that.
Yeah.
And she kind of had to grieve this loss of, well, when I marry my husband, that dream I always had of a particular lifestyle with a particular kind of man, like I'm giving
Yeah.
all of that
Yeah.
up. She wasn't having doubts about her husband, but there was a
No, I
sense
get
of like
it. I married
that.
someone I wouldn't have married in my
Yeah.
dreams. I mean, that sounded really, you know what I mean? Like it wasn't what I imagined that I
Yeah.
wanted.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's almost like that. It's almost like there was such, without having made any of these commitments, there was always this possibility that something really big and exciting and dramatic would happen. And it's not to say that it couldn't, but it feels less likely now.
I think that that is a very existential truth. I mean,
Mm.
I can relate to everything you're saying without the same situation. Um, there's always something else we want, or there's a scratch we haven't itched, and that's why I like the now one because it's like if I bring myself here, like what's happening now, that's all I have access to. Like the future isn't mapped out before me
Yes.
as long as
Yeah.
I'm here now.
And I have plenty of those moments as well. Like I really do. It's not like I feel like I'm sitting here with this feeling all the time. But I guess when I'm thinking ahead to the next year, and that's kind of making me think about the future, I suppose it's coming
Mhm.
more into focus. Some of these niggles that are sort of around in the background and coming to
Yeah.
the forefront. If I think about more what I wouldn't want for the next year, I don't want the next year
Mm.
to just be 365 days where I just do my work and I'm just in my flat.
Okay.
And then sometimes I see some friends at weekends. I don't know, there's something, I
Yeah.
think for me, it's often about needing if that's why the word novelty comes to mind. Like I
Yeah.
need a new thing, not
Okay.
because I think the new thing's going to fix me. I don't
Yeah.
think, oh, I need a new thing and then I will feel it's like,
Okay.
no, the needing of the new thing and the creating or the doing of the new thing is the process.
Yeah.
If you see
Yeah.
what the process is
Yeah.
the end
It's
point. There
what
isn't an
you,
end point.
yes. Hmm. And it's just maybe you don't have a picture of what that novel thing is, but you know that's part of what it feels like.
Yeah.
I like that.
Mhm.
Do you have any
It,
idea of what it is? Like, can you see?
as I think I mentioned to you before, I did think about taking January off to write my second book. But with buying the house, and I got a little bit nervous about money and taking the time off and all of that, so I'm not doing that. And without taking a bit of a clean break from work for a period of time, I genuinely don't think I have it in me to write a second book. Like I need, even if it was just a couple of weeks to like blast and kind of get a big chunk of it out, and then I could keep sort of topping it up. But it's like I need, it's the all or nothing, right? And sometimes we've got to go with the all or
Yeah,
nothing because
yes.
it
Sometimes it works
just
for us.
yeah, yeah. So that's one thing. Another thing would be just to take a month off and just go and do something fun. I don't know, go to Bali for a month or something like that. Just go and do a proper traveling type
Yeah.
trip with a group of people. I've never really done that kind of thing. I'll go to places, I'll kind of go and plonk myself somewhere and then have a look around that area and then I come back.
Okay.
So that's another possibility is to
Mm,
try and do a big trip this year,
yeah.
which I've only just thought of in this second. I haven't been thinking about
Okay.
that before. Literally just now.
Can I come?
Of course you can. You reckon you're not going to leave your family for a month?
I know I can't. I can't. But I can appreciate the sentiment. And one day I have plans to do stuff like that when I'm an empty
Mm.
nester. I have lots
Yeah.
of plans.
Yeah. We
I
can do
think
so much stuff when you're an
I,
empty nester. I
I,
can't wait. I'm
we
going to
only
drag
have
you here
11
there.
more years.
I'm going to drag you here, there, and everywhere.
I wonder what our words will be then. Like retirement.
Yeah, we'll have a spin-off podcast called Life After Retirement.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's something about newness. I would
Fresh.
like something fresh is quite a nice word
Yeah.
because there is a fear of, sort of going stale.
Hmm. Frivolity? No. It,
Quite the right energy.
yeah. Yeah,
It's
I think
closer.
that that's actually listening to you talk about it, it feels hopeful and optimistic and fresh. Like there's a positive energy to that, what you're talking about, that I appreciate and I resonate with. And I think you can find that. I think like when I was listening to you, I was like, oh, I think that's why I like to travel so much. Oh, because I'm getting well, by the time this airs, I will have had my knee surgery, but am getting my knee surgery. And I said to Mike, I'm going to be parked for a while. Like I'm not getting on I went to Florida last week and I'm like, when we landed, I was like, that was the last plane ride that I'm taking in the foreseeable I don't have any more trips planned. And usually I do. I'm like, oh, I'm going here for work and I'm going here for, like, and I don't. I have nothing. I was a little bit like, oh, like I feel a little way about that. Oh, that's why I like having that agenda. Like I like having the next thing to look, even though the trips themselves aren't even necessarily where I find the sense of the thing. It's really in the idea that those things are coming and that
Yes.
they exist
Yeah.
and the option. Like it's that. So because I've noticed that before, I was like, okay, then I can find the same feeling wherever I am. It's just it's about finding what's fresh. It's about finding what gives me hope and optimism and anticipation and that sense of freedom, however that's going to play out. And it's not going to play out in trips right now, but it could. I don't doubt that it will. I know that feeling will occur to me in some now moments. I know that it will. I don't need to know what they are going to be. They will spring themselves on me, but that's an energy I think that just when you need it, it can be anywhere.
Mm-hmm. So fresh for me has got the right energy because it's new, but there's an uplifting lightness to fresh that I really like. Because I could say novelty, and okay, let's say I write the book. I could have a miserable time writing the book. It could be really hard work, and actually, I want it to be something that is the process itself is joyful. I'm not in the mood to do something hard just for a good outcome. I'm just not in the mood
Just
for
for
it this year.
novelty.
Yeah. Or even just for the outcome, because writing a book, especially
Yeah.
if you write a book that you're really pleased with, when it's released, it feels incredible. But it is a lot of pain and birthing to
Yeah.
get to that point. And actually, whatever, I might want to turn my attention to, it just feels really important to do it from a place of inspiration. So it could always be a book, but I want to do it because I've started to feel inspired, not because I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
now's the time. Right. Now just get inspired, damn it.
Frivolously bullshit, damn it.
Yeah. You said your word was 2 words.
Yes. So the other word I ended up going with now, but the first word I came up with that led me to the now was flexibility because I have found that again, this is working with the frivolous bullshit idea. There's rigidity in me in a lot of places. It comes from my need to control things and then I had this whole revelation. I'm not going to talk about this on the podcast, but I had this whole revelation while I was away about why I'm so rigid. I had this
Oh,
interaction with
you can't
I'm going to give
please
you
the
I'm not going to go
okay.
into it, but on my way home, I was like, Mike, because Mike hears, I'm sure he doesn't, he's just like, okay, yeah. But I was like, I think I know why I am so rigid about certain things. Like, and when I mean rigid is sometimes I'll get into like a zone of focus, whether it's an actual task I'm doing or work mode, or sometimes it even shows up when I'm like listening to a song and I won't let the station change. I need to listen to, I need to stay sometimes in this zone and I won't be distracted from it. And when I am distracted from it or pulled out of it, I get very mad about it. And this impacts my ability to be flexible, as you might imagine, because I sometimes can't shift gears. And so we went away a couple weeks ago to see my parents. And it happened to be the week of the US election. And my dad and I it's not just political. This isn't even the political. This is fundamental value stuff and the way we think stuff. And there's stuff. Anyway, so I noticed that when I speak to my dad and have a conversation with my dad, he's very, very artful at trying to take your words and what you're saying, and then he brings you over here and he tries to like bring the conversation over here so he can prove this other side point. And I have gotten equally and probably more artful at being like, no, we're not going over here. We're staying over here. This is what we're talking about. We can get to that next if you'd like, but that's distracting from my point, which is here, that you don't want me to go. You don't want to be, he knows how to manipulate that. And I said to Mike, and I was like, I think that's why I'm rigid. I think because I learned that in order for me to to be heard and to have a voice, we need to stay on target. We need to stay here. This is what I'm talking about. And having grown up and just like being around him for like a week, I was like, oh my gosh, this is how like I lived 18 years. And you know what I mean? Like, of course
Uh-huh.
I feel this almost this protective way about when this is the thing, this is the thing. And so I was like, I don't like though the way that I don't need to do that with other people. And so like perhaps I've trained myself to be rigid in a way that served me once, but doesn't serve me always. And so I'd like to learn to be more flexible. And so the whole idea of flexibility kind of led to like how do I find my flexibility? And it's kind of like bringing myself more to the now, the here and now, instead of being stuck in my past habits and my, I don't know, whatever my nervous system's doing as it remembers the path of something. Anyway, so it was all in an effort to be more flexible. And then I just got more clarified on it. But I still, flexibility is still ingrained in that. And then I was like, well, maybe part of that lack of flexibility has really served me and still does really serve me because I also get a lot of shit done by being focused. But I also miss stuff. I miss some frivolous bullshit by being that focused. And it's something I want to think about.
Yeah. Well, it makes
I
sense,
love you,
doesn't it? When
Dad.
you really think your daddy's listening to
He
this?
doesn't, but sometimes people do. And I actually do love my dad, and that's yeah, I can hold both truths about situations. I do often talk about it with my dad. I feel a little bit like it's a little unfair. Because there's also wonderful things.
Yeah, of course. But
Yes.
yes.
What about you, listener?
Well, last time, do you remember I read out so many words to you?
Yeah, I
That was
do.
probably easier for the listener to be able to pick their words. Yeah, I mean, the whole idea behind words is, I guess, instead of doing something like New Year's resolutions, I think it's just a great opportunity to reflect and to think about what you might want for yourself or hope for yourself or like or what matters to you this year sometimes. Sometimes it's just a case of this is what matters to me at the moment.
Yeah, like what's the value? I
Hmm.
also would suggest if your relationship with food were already healed or your relationship with your body image was already healed, what word would you choose? Because I know that I used to be so driven by what word will help me get thinner? What word will help me eat less? And like that was what all my intentions really boiled down to. And so I wonder if I'd ever ask myself the question, like absent of those goals, what would I want for myself? What would my intention or value be?
Well, a friend of mine a couple of years ago, when I think I was talking about this with him, he chose the word vitality because he'd just been having a lot of health problems. And he was just one of those annoying people that could just do that. I'm just going to focus on vitality and just taking care of myself. And then just made a few small little changes that were supporting his health, nothing drastic. I'm like, how does somebody like do that without doing 10 years of
Yeah, I have a
work on
friend like
themselves
that.
first?
I have a friend like that. You know what? We've talked about this before. It's a very black and white way of being sometimes. It's like I just make a choice and then I do that thing. It's like, no thoughts get in the way.
Yeah, yeah. But it was really gentle as well, the way he did it. It wasn't like he didn't do some kind of big lifestyle overhaul either. So
Okay, okay.
it was just
What
really
did he
gentle.
do?
Oh, so he was he literally started like he started making some soups in the winter. That was one of the things that he did. He started going swimming, and I think that was kind of it. I think he made some
Oh, well,
soup and
that's
went
so
swimming.
interesting because like if the word had been weight loss and those very same things were part of it, it would have probably turned out very differently. It's just like,
Yeah.
what are we really, yeah, what's the energy behind our choice?
Yes. And I don't think for him like the weight loss was a part of it at all, as far as I'm
Yeah.
aware.
Yeah.
Don't think that was his thinking.
I love soups in the winter. I just made one. I made chicken mulligatawny.
Oh, my dad does a good mulligatawny.
So good.
Yeah. There's one that I really like. It's actually an Australian recipe, and it's turmeric, lentil, and lemon soup.
Ooh,
I didn't do that one for you, did
Australian.
I? I
What do you
did.
mean it's Australian? Is that
Oh,
an
it
Aus
just that I found it on an Australian cookery website. I don't think it's like indigenous to Australia
I
or
was
anything
gonna
like
say
that.
that doesn't,
Oh,
is that
all that
sounds
turmeric.
Indian?
I just mean because all the
Like
ingredients
kangaroo
sound
soup.
all the ingredients just sounded a bit funny the way that they were written because they were written for an
Oh,
Australian supermarket.
it's
So
like how is that? Okay.
why I remember it. And I
That's
still have that
funny.
bookmark saved on my iPad for that soup. And I keep meaning to I need to get those ingredients in because
Yeah.
it's such a good soup.
That's like I have Sarah's lentil soup in my repertoire, which is yours.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Anything else we want to bring into New Year's discussions? Maybe a word to this is the time of year, like a little disclaimer, like this is the time of year when there's lots and lots of messaging out there about, I wonder what it'll be like this year with, I don't know, with just like the new wellness culture. It's a different season of all of this, of diet culture and wellness culture, and I wonder what the shtick will be this year. But just, I don't know, I feel like every year I like to remind myself that the pressure feels very potent, but it isn't. It's all pressure we're putting on ourselves. Um,
Where your voice went then. And I just think with any, I don't know, intentions or words or anything for the new year, well, I would want to say, don't make it about trying to be a better version of yourself because you don't need to be a better version of yourself. I think for me, New Year, even when or if it wasn't weight focused, it was often about, oh, who I need to start becoming. Like I need to do better this year. I think I've definitely fallen into that trap as well, independent of chasing any kind of weight loss.
yeah,
This idea that this is
right.
the year that so
Yeah.
I have to catch myself with things. All right, this is the year that I just become, I don't know, a consistent writer. But I just feel like such a fraud with writing because I don't like writing. I've written like once. It just happened to be a book, but I don't like writing. I don't like
Why do
writing
you have to?
blogs or posts because I have a lot I want to say, and I just
You
think
are
getting
saying
it.
it
I
all the
know, I know,
time. Hmm.
I know, but I just think getting it into a book form.
Hmm.
I think one thing that writing my book really did for me was it really at that time helped to cement how I thought about these things.
Yeah.
There's something I think incredibly, from a self-development perspective, incredibly helpful
Oh, yeah.
in that aspect. So there's a lot of benefits there as well. Plus, it's a really lovely bit of passive income having a book out there. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie,
But
like
I mean, having a book is different than needing to be a writer.
no, but I feel like writers write books.
Yeah, but not they don't. So do people who write books.
Yeah, I know. I remember when I used to run, and I was never a particularly fast runner or a great runner comparative to people who ran a lot. And I remember once reading in one of these running articles around, hey, if you get your shoes on and you run, you are a runner.
Yeah, I've seen that
And I
one.
remember that really struck me at the time. And I was like, oh, yeah, because I think when I was in my eating disorder and I was running, I felt embarrassed to tell people that I was running because I felt like I didn't look like a runner.
Hmm. Yes.
And I
But
imagine everyone thinking, oh, have you just started? I'm like, no, no, no.
it's, it's interesting though, because it's like I can see the identity being empowering, and I can also see the identity being limiting.
Hmm.
In either way, it's like if you feel like you have to be a writer to write, but you don't enjoy writing, then you're going to feel like you failed. But if you just write when you write, you'll get the same job done.
Because I think it's more than that. I'd like to find a way to enjoy writing.
Oh,
I don't want to turn it into some kind of thing that I make myself do. I just want to be somebody who, when you talk about just
fun.
sitting down and you just write and it just comes
But
out, I'm like, ah,
yeah, but like I didn't
I know.
choose that. It's just the way that it is. And so maybe I know you know. I'm telling the listener. Um,
But then people might say that to me about YouTube. I just sit down and I'm like, oh, right, yeah, I'm just going to talk. I
right.
prefer
It's like we
talking.
all have our stuff. I feel like have you ever read Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert?
I know the one. No, I think I've listened to the podcast. Isn't there a Big
Mm.
Magic podcast?
She's written so many things,
Hmm.
but her book Big Magic, it's about creativity in whatever form, and she talks about it like you don't choose your creative path, like it's just like it finds. And I really really felt that because I was like, I never pursued writing, but when I sit down it just comes out of me. I have no idea what I'm going to say, it just comes out. And everyone's got something like that, I think. You know what I mean? Like something that some way their stuff gets channeled through. And I don't know that we get to choose, because I want to be a YouTuber. Like I keep thinking it would be such a better forum for me in a bunch of ways, but it's just not organic. It's just not happening organically. But writing does, so I'm just going to keep writing. I'm a natural Instagrammer.
I haven't posted on Instagram for a long time.
No, I
I keep
mean,
meaning to just post a couple of videos of me
why would you
talking about
bother?
Well, I talk about binge eating while waving my cat around and
Oh
trying to
yeah.
get trying to get the algorithm on my side
The
there.
algorithm has mind of its own.
It sure does. It sure does. But yeah, okay. Well,
Well, this was 2 weeks in a row of us just like jibber jabbering.
oh yeah, gosh, I forgot about last week's
I know.
episode.
I don't know. Okay. Yes, people.
Yeah.
Um, all right. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Steph. Happy New Year. I can't say it. Happy New Year, Steph.
Happy New
Happy New
Year.
Year, listeners.
See you next week.